Hello and welcome to what promises to be an absolute firecracker of a night. You get it? You see what I did there? We have another one of Professor Damo's marvelous firecrackers. Hey, don't bump that. This time the Mi Querida, if my computer laptop can focus on that. The firecracker with that signature fuse running down the side there, looking all very pretty. I'm going to have to ask him about the blend. Is this a Maduro? It's got quite a lot of color to it. It looks like it's got a bit of oil to it. But I don't know if it goes all the way to being a Maduro or not, but there is only one way to find out, and that is to bring on the cigar professor Damo himself. Damo, how you doing?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing very, very well, but I will confess to not having done as much research into this cigar as I probably should have. Is this the same blend as the Mi Querida that we've had before and absolutely loved so much?
It is a modified version of the same blend.
Yeah, okay.
Steve Sarker is quite renowned for not necessarily keeping the same blend in a particular range across vitolas. He actually will make things different because he believes that the primary function of a cigar is to be the best it can possibly be. And just by taking the same ingredients and changing the ratios going from different vitolas doesn't necessarily bring out the best that tobacco has to offer. So while it is based, I would say, a lot around that blend, it is unique to this particular vitola, and also in the essence of Firecracker having a little bit more punch to a little bit more bang than what the other ones did.
Sure. Now, I must applaud you on your efforts to try and get rid of Professor Omar once and for all. I've heard word that
it was very difficult. It was
he's halfway around the world.
Yes, look, I had to slip him tainted cigars in order for that to happen.
Look, I have received word from the Saudi royal family, which is, of course, who Omar secretly works for. We all know that, that he has actually, unfortunately, survived your best efforts. And whilst I did have some party poppers just off shot here to celebrate at the end of the show if he didn't make it, because let's remember, he holds it over us. He gloats. He glories in the fact that he's never missed a show. A little asshole. Still refuses to miss a damn show. Omar, how are you?
I'm sick. I can't speak properly.
Well, this is going to be a fantastic show.
I've been throwing up and fevers and all kind of things.
And he's still smoking a cigar.
Still smoking a cigar. Managed on the show.
I managed a meeting room at unknown place. Spoke to someone to get me just in there and smoke a cigar.
Wow. You are unbelievable, Omar. I am so impressed. You are absolutely unbelievable.
You gotta make shit happen.
Such dedication, no one has ever known.
You gotta make shit happen.
Well, we're going to put you on mute so you stop talking and stop destroying that voice of yours, whatever's left of it, and so that we can enjoy some peace and quiet. Because let's be honest, the only reason
I can talk.
The only reason anyone wants you on the show is to just look at that gorgeous beard. That's the only reason why you're here. You're just the eye candy. Stop talking. All right.
Well, look, I reckon he was definitely the eye candy of the Middle East for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I reckon he had all the sheiks lining up to stroke his beard.
Oh,
yeah.
I reckon they had beard envy when he turned up. They, you know what? It was actually planned by Omar. He deliberately made his beard so lucrative that he would stand on the street corner and he would let people pat his beard for a cigar.
Yeah.
So that's how he's been getting his cigars for the last few weeks.
Boys, before we light up, how about we light up, and I got a bunch of things to tell you about cigars.
All right, listen, before you tell us about cigars, I'm happy to hear it. But I had a realization, Damo, that for all of our careful coverage and curation of every art related to cigars, there is one cigar-related art form that we actually haven't touched on yet. And I do feel like this is quite remiss of us, actually. We're a number of years in now. And for us never to have covered the cutting of a cigar using some sort of a penknife. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we've never actually done this on the show.
That has definitely not been something I have done.
And
Omar has done the pinch and twist method. We've done the V cut, we've done the punch cut, we've done the straight cut, but never with a knife.
And can I just say, contrary to the vicious rumors that are circulating already on the internet, this has nothing to do with the fact that I simply cannot, for love nor money, find any of my cigar cutters. I don't know where they've gone. I've been traveling, and I literally cannot find a single one of the half dozen cutters that are lying around my house somewhere. This has nothing to do with that. This is all about education and covering off a gap that we've left in our education of our viewers. That is my commitment to our craft.
Wow, let's do it.
Yeah. When cutting with a penknife, go carefully. Treat it like you are circumcising yourself.
Nice. You don't have much to circumcise anyway.
No, it's a very quick job. Very quick job. You can always retrim it later, cut a little more off. That's not enough. I don't think I even got through the binder on that cut. Oh, that's it. Perfect.
There's a little bit of resistance there on my. Just did a cut with the perfect cutter, but I'm going to light it up and see how we go. Now, you guys have been complaining to me that I have been very unimaginative with my lighting of cigars.
Yes.
Of recent. Well, I found a new toy. I don't know if it's going to light a cigar or not. Haven't tried. But you've seen those.
Vibrate?
You've seen those little lighters that have got the little crisscross sparking on it.
Oh, yes.
Well, those sparks are too small. Well, obviously, big is always better, and they finally released one which has a big gap in it and a big spark. The only downside is it only goes for 6 seconds before it turns off. Otherwise, the electrodes melt. But I'm going to give it a go.
Does it double as a self-defense tool?
I reckon it would.
Because that has a certain
I'm looking
self-defense
for a
look.
volunteer to come over and let me jam it into them. So,
Well,
since
Omar
you
will be
asked,
home soon.
next time I see you, you can let me know.
All right. All right. Well, you tell us how you go and what happens with the flavors there. Omar, talk to us. What have you learned about cigars?
Topher, I was very lucky to be able to go to some very, very heavy duty places in terms of cigars. I was a little bit disappointed about Davidoff of London. They have downsized and they won't allow you to even do tasting anymore.
Oh,
But JJ Fox and the C Cigar was still going. Wonderful experiences. But my mate Robbie, who's a kind of known vlogger in food area, he Damo obviously know Robbie, and we basically went up to some very, very, very heavy duty places in the cigars hotels. The Peninsula, it's 1.5 billion pound project, and their cigar lounge, I've got their photos. It's very exclusive, very, very exclusive. You have cigars that go up to 5 and 6 grand easily. And then I went to Bulgari Lounge, which is Sahakian's private collection. That's also absolutely amazing. And in Switzerland, La Reserva is probably the most prestigious place. They claim it to be in the world. La Reserva, that was really good. So some really good places in Geneva and London.
nice.
It was eye-opener. Now, like going about that cigar.
Just how much it sucks in Australia.
It does, indeed.
Well, we did already kind of know that, to be fair, Omar. You didn't have to travel around the world just to prove how much it sucks in Australia.
Yeah, it does, honestly. Like, I'm sick and I'm still smoking 3 cigars, no problems. Like, I had a fever all night. I was throwing up. I got up, had a bit of a tea, and asked someone to get me a boiled egg. And that was it I needed. And that's like my 3rd cigar.
You are a machine.
I love cigars. You got to love what you do.
Damo, successful with that lighter?
Look, it wasn't as straightforward and easy as I'd like. It's not something I would try and do on a regular basis. But that being said, I have ordered a little science invention that's supposed to make a much bigger, more powerful spark. It's based off a little Tesla coil. So it's
Nice.
just they ramp the frequency up to about 16,000 gigahertz instead of being in the kilohertz range.
Wow.
So instead of sharp crackling lightning bolts off it, you get the sort of like the plasma wave that you see inside
Yeah,
a
right.
coming off it, but into the air. So
Yeah, wow.
as soon as that arrives, I'll use that on the next show after it arrives, and you'll see whether I manage to not electrocute myself trying to light a cigar.
Well, yes. I mean, electrocute yourself, but also if it's able to generate enough heat and intensity of energy to light a cigar, then it's capable of burning you extremely badly.
Oh yes, definitely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a not to miss show.
It is theoretically going to be hot enough to melt steel.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's heavy.
So that'll make for a very interesting and possibly quite entertaining live viewing and nice ring. It's been a long time since you've blown one of them.
Well, thank you. That's just don't ask my neighbours what I go to on a Friday. But yes, as far as you're concerned. But I've got to say, hot enough to melt steel. That means it's hot enough to melt my testicles. That's extremely hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, wait and see.
Wait and see. How's the notes, Damo? What do you think?
Well, it was on the initial light up, and it was possibly because of the intense heat that was created on the me trying to light it. It was a bit peppery. It actually made me sneeze twice from that real strong pepper note that hit me. But since it's settled into its normal burn pattern, that pepper note has dropped down. On the light up, I did have a bit of a sour twang to it as well. But that's died down quite a lot as well. Definitely a chewy smoke. It's got some nice texture to it, and it's really sitting in that damp earthiness on light up for me.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, I'm not quite sure what this is doing. It doesn't feel like it's fully lit, but it is burning like it's fully lit. So I've over smoked it a little bit, just trying to make sure it really is going. So I'm going to let it rest for a minute here and see if it'll settle in. But I'm getting the sour note, a little bit of pepper, definitely. But overall, it doesn't taste like I think it should. So I'm hoping that there's just something funky going on with the burn and it'll settle in a minute.
There's definitely a bit of sweetness, just very slowly coming into the smoke as I'm letting it cool down. And that earthiness has a bit of a cedar finish on it as well.
I think that dampness that you guys are talking about, it also has a really strange spice that I cannot articulate. I don't know what it is, but there's like a spice in the end that lingers on. It's kind of
You're a popular man, Omar.
yeah, it's because I'm connected to a computer now that I borrowed it off someone. It just I don't know what's going on with it.
Your level of commitment is unparalleled.
Dude,
Amazing.
last night I was throwing up constantly. And the throat problem come from, when you have the puke kind of like settled in, it's not going away.
So is that all are they the tasting notes you're getting now? Is a little bit of carrot. Where did that come from? I don't remember eating carrot.
What happened is what I did was I went to a juice bar and I said to him, juice me a bunch of lemons without taking the skin or seed off, just like that.
Yeah.
So before I couldn't speak, I had to write it down for him, text it. I said, this is what I want you to do. And after doing that, it's cleaned out a little bit. After that, I had my first Panadol after 10 years.
Wow. Must have been bad.
Yeah. I don't want to take a chance, Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's brutal. I've had some pretty bad food poisoning in the past. Hong Kong. Made the mistake of eating a sausage roll from a bakery. Don't do that.
Oh.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Colombia, chicken shop. Absolutely killed me. And the mistake I made in Colombia was it wasn't this end, it was the other end. And we flew the next day to Venezuela. Word of advice for those who travel, do not get the runs in a country that has a severe toilet paper shortage.
Shit.
Just some advice. All right. I'm going to put it up on the TripAdvisor website soon.
Well, look, there would have been plenty of Australians that could have related to you in 2020 to that one. The great toilet paper crisis of 2020.
The toilet paper wars.
That's right. I'm actually surprised toilet paper didn't match the same price of cigars.
Yeah, just about. Damn it. Now, hang on. I'm just going to answer Stu's question here, but I've got to do it by taking you guys off the screen. So just bear with me 1 second. Stu, you're about to get the answer. Yeah. Sorry about that. It's not as exciting as you thought, huh?
I do like the Chesterfield lounges behind you there, though.
Yeah, look, it's a good look, but a look is all it is.
Yeah. So going back to the tasting notes, there is kind of a light spice, but it's right. It is very chewy and gooey and a thick smoke, but there's like a light spice. I don't know what it is.
There's something hitting my soft palate all the way up the back. It's not a straight pepper.
Nah.
But that might be the spice that you're referring to. I'm not sure.
What about ginger or cinnamon type mixed?
Well, ginger was Dan was saying is getting a hint of fresh ginger lingering. And I don't disagree. It's not a clear note for me, but I get where he's coming from with that.
Yeah.
Is it a little bit, and this would be an Omar question, I'm just trying to remember, what's that other, that not turmeric, what's that other ginger-like root? Galangal.
Oh, galangal. Yeah, I think
that's got a bit of a tartness to it as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, but the galangal is not chewy. This is like thick. Galangal this is like thick, very thick, chewy smoke. How's the cigar for you? Is it really tightly packed and feels tight? No,
for me, the construction
definitely feels tight, except for where the heat's coming in, and it's softening up where the heat is.
Yeah, same.
Mine's drawing beautifully.
Mm.
I'm not sure what that was going on earlier, but the flavors are filling out now a lot more. There was just something odd about that first sort of half a centimeter. Wasn't burning right, but it seems to have settled now.
I've left a little wick on the side. It's a bit hard to see, but I haven't quite hit it yet, but it'll just be interesting to see if there's going to be a flavor change once we hit that wick, because I do know with the Damo firecrackers, if you leave that wick in and burn through it when you're smoking it, you get a little bit more of a pepper note come through. And if you want it a little bit creamier and less pepper, you just take the wick out.
Yeah. So Damo,
yes,
some bad news. You sent the wrong one to Stu.
Oh.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I must have sent you the wrong one too.
No, mine's smoking all right too. So you didn't send me his, that's for sure. It hasn't exploded on me yet. Stu, maybe that's because it hasn't been in your care for very long. I reckon there's something about where you're storing or how you're storing. I reckon that's got to be what it is.
On the retro, there's a little bit of a muskiness that reminds me of sort of like a men's musky aftershave, sort of like that deep, heavy musk note.
A little bit of Elon.
Mm-hmm. Is that the taste of government efficiency?
Oh my God.
I think Damo's got a new boyfriend. Steve Cigar is out. He's old news now.
Look, when they come out with Doge t-shirts, I'm going to be buying one, I can tell you.
Honestly, me too. Actually, I've got a guy who could make us some.
Boys, there's something about Middle East that is so cigar friendly. I went to this restaurant in the Middle in Jeddah. That's in Saudi Arabia. I went there, flew from Qatar, spoke to the cabbie, say, hey, what's the best place to eat right now? We're like really hungry. He goes, oh, there's blah, 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 blah place. They do meats only. Carnivore, something named like carnivore. They do meats only. So that sounds good. So there's outdoor area, fire is going, and we eating. And I start smoking my cigar. And I said, I feel like I need to go in. So I went in and I said to the guy, I said, look, my cigar is not lit because I was indoors now. I said, it's not lit. I'm just going to finish my food and then I go out. He goes, no. I get you straight here. You don't need to cut your pleasure time, he said. No need to cut your pleasure time. No need to cut your pleasure time. I said, thank you.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Does sound good. Does sound good.
You don't understand how much I appreciated that comment. He goes, you don't need to cut your pleasure time.
See, we're like Dan's getting the cigar venue set up, so this is definitely like good information to provide to him.
Oh yeah.
He's got to have meat cooking on demand. Absolutely. There, and people to service the meat and then tell us, come in and smoke and eat and drink and be merry, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. We're waiting for it.
I think we've got to have the poker table, the cigars. Omar, you've got to bring those damn meatballs that I've been hearing all about and still haven't. I think they're a myth. I think you made them up. They don't exist. And then we got to have Stu. You got to come over and bring your girls, and they can just like bring us drinks and stuff all night, so we don't have to move.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good.
And then by the end of the night, I've got all of your money thanks to the poker. It cost me nothing.
Cost you nothing at all.
All right. Well, I'm burning the wick, burning the little firecracker bit there. I can't say I'm noticing a flavor change, but then I wouldn't because I'm not super familiar with this cigar. But also, I noticed that the wick on this is very, very thin compared to what it is on the Perdomos.
Yeah, very much thicker. Definitely much thicker.
I'm actually surprised at how creamy this cigar has become so quickly in this first third.
It's very creamy.
It's not quite juicy, but it's sort of almost getting that it's almost like cream in the mouth, sort of like that coating, that oil slick coating in the mouth. So
it's what you said earlier about the smoke being quite chewy is absolutely true. I'm slowing down again. I've got a bit of a wonky burn happening here. I feel like the construction on this just isn't quite right. It's close, but it's just not quite right. I did get you
the right cigar.
That's right.
It's a user error.
Of course it is. Come back to Australia and say that, Omar. Come on. You're pretty brave when you're halfway around the world.
2 days. Coming.
All right. You're on then. I'm going to let it cool down. There's quite a strong vein on that side where it's burnt as well. You can see that in the ash. And I think the burn may have followed that vein down to a certain degree. So we'll just see how it goes.
Boys, Damo just sent me a private message. He said it reminds him of Steve Saka's veins.
Well, he would know.
Yeah.
Well, I am being patriotic tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
We can tell. Never questioned it.
Man, I'm surrounded by jolly judgmental armchair generals tonight.
So I see we've got Dan and we've got Stu. Who else have we got tonight?
Well, we've got a bunch of others watching, but no one else commenting just yet. So, guys, if you're watching, whether you're new or whether you're a regular, throw a comment in and we'll say hi. Tell us where you're watching from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're smoking tonight's cigar, or if not, what cigar are you smoking?
What do you got? Tell us what you got.
Yeah.
I had an order to ship yesterday, but I made the executive decision to wait till today to ship it because it was so hot in Sydney. I just didn't want it sitting in the truck, baking away. The car temperature in the sun, from just sitting in the sun, hit over 50 degrees inside the car, and I was like, I'm not putting cigars through that. So
no, that's fair. That's fair. Udo, always a pleasure, mate. Welcome.
Hey, Udo.
Omar.
Just my passport, man. My travel documents, bro.
He's in the Middle East. You know, you can't be too careful. You got to keep all that stuff close. You know?
You gotta keep your shit on you.
He's surrounded by Middle Easterners. You know, he's very uncomfortable. He doesn't feel safe.
You got, once you lose that, man, you're gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Look how perfect
this the retro, actually.
Yeah, very good. I have been as good.
It's very smooth on the retro as well, which is quite unusual for a cigar, especially a dark cigar like this.
All right. Well, we've got a bunch more viewers. I can see the numbers here, and they've chosen to be anonymous for whatever reason. So we hope you're enjoying a nice, relaxed evening.
Well, a little bit of technical details of the cigar, since this is a cigar show. It is a Nicaraguan manufactured cigar, but the wrapper is a USA Connecticut broadleaf.
Connecticut
broadleaf. There you go. Okay.
So with the binder and filler from Nicaragua. So
yeah.
Well, there you go.
Broadleaf.
Sorry.
Broadleaf as a wrapper, it doesn't look necessarily beautiful. Looks rough, but the profile of flavors it brings out are phenomenal.
This, I think, is only the second time we've had a broadleaf as a wrapper. It does pop up a few times as a binder because it's quite a good, substantial leaf. Yeah. It works very well as a binder. But I'm slightly impressed with myself because I hadn't actually looked this one up, and I said in the very outset of the show, it's reminiscent of a Maduro, but it doesn't. I don't think it is a Maduro, so I'm a little bit proud of myself for picking that.
And the other interesting thing was that there was only 500 boxes of 20 cigars released.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
10,000 cigars.
Yep.
That was it.
Which, as a global product, that's very few.
That's correct. So we're very fortunate we managed to get a couple of boxes.
Nice. Well, that is kind of your specialty, Damo. You get all the stuff that we can't get again.
It is indeed.
Nice little bit of soft leather starting to come in on that as well for me now.
I think that's that spice has dropped away.
Yes. Yep. Actually, you know, that creamy note that's in it also reminds me of, you know, the old-fashioned creaming soda, not the modern red one, but the sort of the one that was sort of like a tea-coloured creaming soda.
I think so.
That vanilla note to it. It's reminding me a little bit of that. Just reminiscent.
The room smoke is lovely. The aroma that it's just putting out into the room is just really nice to just sit in. The haze up against the ceiling of the studio is nice.
I'm actually quite enjoying retroing this cigar. I don't normally retro a cigar more than a couple of times, but I found I've done it on the last 3 or 4 draws.
Hey, FYI, I'm not gonna die wondering because I just looked up. My next stop is Abu Dhabi, and they have the most gorgeous cigar lounge at the airport.
Okay, so pics or it didn't happen. You'd better have pictures for us next show.
I've got pictures galore. I've got pictures galore, man.
Well, you send them to me for the next show.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. A question from Mr. Stu. A flavor change on the wick. I've actually removed my wick because it just wasn't burning. I tried to get it lit earlier.
But what I will do is I'll see if I can get it to take. Oh, drop my ash trying to do that too.
Yeah.
See if
Omar's ash is all over his face. Oh, wait, that's his beard.
I got it all over it here.
Yeah, so your wick isn't burning either, Omar.
No, it's not. It's a bit like thicker than the Perdomo, or it's a bit thicker than all of them.
It's like a violet crumble, not as thick as some.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a real hazelnut note has just come through. With a little bit of the sourness from earlier, it's just turned into a slight hazelnut bitterness.
I would say this. From the get-go, it has some kind of nuttiness, right? I was one point I was thinking, is it hazelnut or those chestnuts, water chestnuts, the burnt water chestnuts?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like kind of that too.
Yeah.
Who's this guy? What does he know? Who's this guy?
Be nice to him. He knows where I live.
Ain't doing nothing, man.
It's an effortless cigar, nonetheless. It's not requiring very much effort to keep it burning quite well.
That's pretty good.
I haven't had to do anything, but it has been kind of wonky on me all the way through. So I know, user error.
We've taught you well.
Boys, what's a choice of drinks tonight, boys?
Well, I'm drinking a sugar-free ginger ale sort of drink. And once I run out of that, I'm probably going to go on to some soda and bitters.
Soda and bitters.
Well, you remember, Omar, that there was a month there a few months ago. I was really struggling with my mental health, and you could tell because I had kombucha that one time.
Yeah,
you'll be pleased to know I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm having black tea.
Yeah, I like the black tea. Big fan. But I've been doing this trip particularly. I think Damo, he mightn't have tried it, but there's a tea in the Middle East called Karak Chai. It's a Yemeni tradition. It's like made with buttermilk, right? It's very fatty and spicy, saffron, bit of cinnamon, cardamom, and either molasses or honey, either or. Very, very nice. Very nice. Super nice. I'm gonna organize it for you guys. Damon's gonna probably have it with me, but Topher, not you. Only close people, man. Only like bros, man. Real bros, man.
Only your cigar dealer. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Sorry, dude.
You
ain't a dealer.
Don't pretend.
Yeah, you ain't a dealer.
I did see your post, was it today, talking about the tobacco wars in this country going on.
Gosh. Yeah. Yes, we've entirely predictable. I went back in my Facebook history. The first time I posted warning that we were making tobacco attractive to organized crime was back in 2012. 13 years ago. I'm like, guys, this is going to become a problem.
Yeah.
I did a video about it in 2016. I've been talking about it regularly since. And now, oh, no, there's tobacco wars. Oh, really? Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, it's fair. Well said. It's been in the pipeline for a long time. They tried to pass this silly law in NZ about about, I think they permanently want to restrict people over the age of, I think 18 or something, who turned 18 after 2000 or something.
Yeah.
I think it got knocked back.
Yeah, well, what they were proposing was to index the age by 1 year every year, so that basically no more people, it wouldn't be legal for any more people than it already was legal for. And funnily enough, back when I was young and dumb and super conservative, I actually would have supported such a thing. I can remember thinking about such a thing back in the day, back when I bought into the idea that the government should have the power to dictate what people do. But thankfully, I grew up out of that. But sadly, not everyone does. So yes, we have people in power in New Zealand and elsewhere that think that's a great idea. I say screw you.
If I could ask you to put your libertarian hat on,
oh dear. This is going to get dangerous.
Obviously, as a libertarian, you really fundamentally you believe government should just butt out of tobacco.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with that standpoint. If they were to do that, now this is just a big hypothetical because we know that it's such a cash cow of a teat that they like to suckle from that's not likely to happen. But hypothetically, we got someone like Javier Milei in power and just scraps across the board. What is the libertarian answer to companies like us who might have stock that we've already paid $100,000 of tax on, who then have stock that they can't sell at what would be the new market rate, without losing the tax money that was spent?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I actually have thought about this because you run into the same problem even if you try and gradually index the tobacco tax down. You run into exactly the same problem. And I don't have a good answer that isn't rife for some kind of fraud. I'm not quite sure how you would do this. But I would imagine it would have to be something along the lines of a refund with providing proof of stock on hand with a refund. The problem is, of course, enterprising minds are going to very quickly figure out, well, I can just take a bunch of old photos that I've already got. Back when I used to have a lot more cigars than what I've got left, or cigarettes or what have you, or just take a bunch of empty cigarette packets and line them up on the shelf and take photos of that. And, you know, if you say, well, it has to be a stat deck, well, now you just need a person willing to sign off on a stat deck in return for half the money. There isn't really a good way to do it that isn't going to be really, really open to an enormous amount of fraud. So probably the way it would have to be done is to reduce it by 10% of whatever it is every year for 10 years. And
sorry.
No.
Sorry. On that point, I think David Lineham mentioned it a bunch of times. I think the illicit trade of tobacco has gone up in billions of dollars. You need a court system, you need an admin system, you need a jail, you need all of that, right? And if they cut the tax by whatever, without cutting it down in increments every year or not, that's regardless. But if they do two things, two simple policy initiatives: one, separate tobacco from other type of, for example, separate the cigars, premium handmade cigars, from other things. That's number one. And number two, in general, if the cost of all my mates who smoke cigarettes, they buy a pack of Australian cigarette for $75. There's a copies of it that has been counterfeited that can get sold at a counter shop for $20, and the export version of that is $10 to $15. And government is actually missing out. It is the biggest stupidity after the sliced bread.
Yeah. Well, Dan's suggesting, what about receipts? You could potentially do it so that you announce the policy and you simply say the government will back pay all tobacco taxes for the last 12 months. Because they've obviously got a record of everything they've been paid. And that wouldn't necessarily help people like us, where we've got cigars that we've been holding on to for 4 years, 5 years, etc. But the reality is, for most people trading in tobacco, the majority of your stock is less than a year old. So that would still cover the majority of any losses. So that would be a way to do it, potentially more of an instantaneous thing where you're going to zero. The government simply refunds all the tax paid in the previous 12 months. That's a boon for all the companies that have had to, sell it and so forth. or some sort of a sliding scale. You get all of it from last month, 90% of it from the month before, 80% from the month before that, going back, something along that line. In the end, I mean, getting out of any government protection racket, because that's what it is. It's a government-run protection racket. Getting out of any of those is really difficult. Look at what happened with taxi licenses.
Yeah.
Right. You had all these people that had put their retirement savings into $400,000 taxi licenses, profiting from a government-run protection racket. And then the minute they wanted to legalize Uber, you've got all these people jumping up and down saying, well, I put all my superannuation into this. I put all my life savings into this.
Yeah.
You can't do this to me. And, you know, I sort of say, well, if you lie down with dogs, you're going to wake up with fleas. But at the same time, I can understand where they're coming from. So there's a few different ways to do it. None of them are perfect. But the end result is going to be a lot better than what we've got now.
I think the fact is, if you just apply common sense, you give a timeline, you give something that is adequate, be fair. Be fair. I know the cap thing used to be $500,000 in Sydney. New South Wales much expensive, right? It is worth nothing right now. It's worth nothing right now. But if you would say, hey, this is going to happen in 5 years, it's going to be a gradual decrease. Yeah, it's a kindergarten common sense.
Yeah, that allows people to adjust their behavior. It doesn't make the problem go away immediately, so the crime would continue. And if the crime is the issue, and I've got to tell you, down in Melbourne, it certainly is, firebombings, shootings, all kinds of smashes and grabs and all kinds of nonsense. You know, there would be an incentive there to try and make the change pretty much instantaneous, just to completely pull the rug out from under all of that organised crime activity. And this is an interesting concept from Stu. Claim it as a loss in the tax. You know, to be able to make previous tax receipts tax deductible for future earnings. That's another interesting way to skin that particular cat.
Actually, that's actually a very smart one, because you'd actually have to have proof of the tax paid.
Oh, yeah.
You could only then take it off future sales, so that as you're moving forward, then the government doesn't cop it in one hit, and effectively over time you do get your money back in entirety.
Yeah, so operators get now. What it doesn't do, though, Damo, is you know, a situation where, you know, we've sunk $90,000 into the stock that we've got on hand right now. If all tobacco tax were removed, all of that stock is probably only worth about 20. And so you and I would be lined up for a $70,000 on paper loss immediately.
Yep.
And so the tax idea doesn't help to compensate in any way for that.
If you could defer your losses, would be good. And maybe defer it over, say, 5 years or something like that for small to medium enterprises.
Yeah, there'd have to be a way of figuring it out that doesn't leave, you know, I mean, even just your 7-Elevens with a wall full of cigarettes, you know, they've got the same problem. I mean, if you've got a decent sized wall of cigarettes, you've got a few tens of thousands of dollars in cigarettes just sitting there.
All stockist.
Yeah.
As I said, if it's a policy decision based on common sense, the incorporation is logical, right?
Yeah.
And take it into account A, B, and C. It's
and not only the question is how. Not only that, if they actually got that out of that tax protection racket, it would also open up the door for agriculture in Australia to go back to growing tobacco again.
Yep.
I read a very interesting article, and I'm not sure whether Omar might have seen this last year, towards the end of last year, and it was speculating that nicotine itself is not the addictive agent in tobacco, but it was speculating that some of the additives that are added into cigarettes and roll your own tobacco react with the nicotine in the burning reaction to produce byproducts that are addictive. And that's a suggestion as to why cigarettes are quite addictive. But there was the link to say that, you know, when people go on nicotine patches to break the smoking habit, they're able to wean off the nicotine patches and not get addicted to them.
Yeah.
So I look, it needed a lot more study. It was just a bit of a preliminary analysis of some of what's going on in the world, and hypothesized what some of these chemical reactions could be that's going on. Yeah. And in theory, you know, under very highly controlled test tube reactions, they could make these things happen. and speculate that it's plausible that this could be the case. And I don't think that it is beyond very large multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies to make their product more desirable for customers to spend more money with them. So,
well, we know they do that. That's a given, and it makes perfect sense from their point of view. They're already selling something that's carcinogenic. Well, from a moral perspective, is it any worse to make it addictive and carcinogenic?
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously appreciate the studies and whatnot. I think the problem with the studies in general, that humans are very hard to study. You have to have at least a double, triple blind sort of work, and it costs a lot of money. It's in millions of dollars. But I think, with all due respect to all the scientists in science and biology and all that, I think common sense is always going to prevail. For example, a lot of the rat and mice studies that have been tested against all substances like cocaine and all that, sugar came out to be the most addictive. And that itself says addictive. There are addictive personalities as well. Some people don't have addictive personalities. And on top of that, I think a substance that exists in nature on its own, not processed, this is real shape, is less likely to be addictive. It's a very conservative view, but it sort of makes sense if you do the application of that. It makes sense. It just makes sense.
Well, I come at it from the place of believing in a creator, and so I come at it from the place of believing that everything has a purpose. Doesn't mean that everything's good for you necessarily, but everything has a purpose. And for example, we're discovering that snake venom potentially has a role to play in anti-cancer medications, and we're discovering lots of interesting natural. Ivermectin, this incredible thing. It's actually it's a mold or something. It's a naturally growing thing that they've managed to isolate and extract. And psilocybin in mushrooms, penicillin for crying out loud. That's a mold. These are all naturally occurring substances, and I start from the belief that there is a purpose to each and every one of them. And I'm of the theory that things like ADHD and on the spectrum, etc. Yes, I think certain things that we do to kids these days would be potentially contributing enormously to the rates at which we find those. But also, I think when smoking was more prevalent, nicotine is a known treatment for ADHD. And so when smoking is more prevalent, you're going to find fewer people are offering symptoms. So you rewind 100 years when everyone was smoking cigarettes. Are you going to notice if someone's ADHD? Well, probably not, because they're self-medicated without even realizing that that's what they've done.
Yeah, and the notable study of British SAS, I think we mentioned it a few times, where they tested all substances, illicit drugs, against the capacities, capabilities, and outputs for soldiers, and they came out to be nicotine and caffeine was the most,
correct.
They
were the only two. Because they drilled us pretty hard on this when I was in the army, because I don't want us taking drugs, obviously. That they were the only two where they determined that the upsides of the drug outweighed the downsides.
Yeah.
So, for example, you can give a soldier methamphetamines, which obviously the Nazis did, as well as the Finnish and other countries during World War II. They literally had methamphetamines for their soldiers, and it would give them phenomenal endurance, but it would really impair their judgment. And cause downsides in other aspects of soldiering. Whereas nicotine and caffeine were the two that they found had an overall upside.
Yeah. And improve their capacities, what you need in a war, without being zombies, without being impaired with the judgment and all kind of other things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, there's a hilarious video that showed us. Sorry?
You go. That's why I'm smoking.
They showed us a video at Recruit Course, which I'm pretty sure is now just on the internet. You can find it anywhere, of British commandos on LSD. And this is a genuine British Army trial, fully officially sanctioned trial to see what the effect of LSD would be on elite soldiers. And it's hilarious. Just watching these guys, slowly the discipline breaks down and they all just end up off with the fairies doing weird shit. And that's where you see, well, whatever the upsides might be in terms of performance, not that LSD is going to have many upsides, but you can see the impairment in their judgment. And that's the issue with most drugs.
I think this is about time that we discuss the ash business, You fuckers.
No, Damo, I don't feel like talking about ash this month. Do you? I don't think it's relevant, you know.
Can't see the ash on Omar's screen. It just camos into the beard anyway.
Yeah, blends in. I reckon he's just stuffed a bit of his beard on top. He's just sort of grabbed a few hairs and just stuck them on top, you know.
I actually got a good whack of while you guys were talking of that hazelnut note, and also a little bit of a chocolatey hazelnut note there. So,
yeah, the hazelnut's been pretty strong. The pepper's kicking in, white pepper this time.
Yeah, I'm getting pepper too, but my pepper is more refined because I got my ash. God damn it.
Yeah.
Damo seems to agree.
I don't know what that comment's in reference to, Mr. Stu. I'm going to need an explanation here.
Well, the $1 million question. The $1 million question is: Javier Milei smoke cigars?
You know, I don't actually know. I've never seen a picture of him with cigars, but he's such a cool bloke. He would have to. Wouldn't. It's impossible that he doesn't.
I'm gonna get some water, gents. I'm gonna get some water.
Dan here saying nicotine improves my ADHD symptoms more than the dexamphetamines that the doctors wanted me to take. I'm hearing that more and more. And there's a lot of people walking around now with nicotine patches on their arms who are not smokers that are quitting. They're using it for other benefits that they perceive. Some prescribed by doctors, many of them not. But they are experiencing significant benefits from having low doses of nicotine in their blood.
And the interesting thing is that a lot of things that we eat from the nightshade family contain natural amounts of nicotine. Things like chilies, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, stuff like that. Yeah. Not as high quantities in tobacco, but nonetheless, our body does have receptors that are perfectly matched to interact with nicotine and in our diets. So,
and that's where I come back to
I too have a creationist world viewpoint, but even if you have an evolutionary viewpoint, it still points towards the fact that if our body has specific bioreceptors to interact and handle and deal with nicotine, and nicotine is in products that we consume as food, then obviously nicotine plays a natural part in our life cycle.
It serves some sort of a function.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say it's not necessary for life, but it does serve some sort of a function. It does do something.
Well, look at the quality of conversation once you get nicotine into you.
That's right.
Okay. Don't say shit that you know nothing about. It is essential for life, right? Potatoes.
I'm sorry.
Sweet potatoes. Nicotine is in everything, man.
I didn't mean to upset you.
You can't say that, man.
Your food pyramid is an interesting one, Omar. Cigars are the base of the pyramid.
So here's an interesting thought. There's a really, really interesting thought here. So growing tobacco rather, is illegal in Australia for no other reason, not because it's an illicit drug, but because you haven't got the tax license to grow it.
Yep.
And the ATO have not issued any tobacco licenses ever since the last tobacco farm went out of production in Australia. If you grafted a tobacco plant on top of your potato crop, could you get away with saying that it's just a potato plant?
Try it.
I'm going to let you find out.
Well, it's all part of the same nightshade family.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Let's just take this a little bit further. What if you just plant tobacco and say it identifies as potato?
Well, that is true too, given the state of our law in this country.
Especially
you probably couldn't get that through America at the moment, though.
Nah.
No. They'd probably get you for it being under 18 over here. If you're in Queensland, you'd be in trouble. But if you're in Victoria, no age limit.
No problems. No problems.
Mr. Stew, I'll let you be the one that has to have that conversation with the tax man.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong on this, because it was many years ago when we started the business that I actually read through all the rules and regulations about this. My understanding is that the requirement is that the tax has to be prepaid upon the planting of the seed for the potential yield of that crop. And it doesn't matter whether it's one plant or 1,000 plants. And that's where the problem therein lies.
Yeah. And then my understanding further is that if the yield ends up being below that potential yield, you don't get a refund, you get a credit towards your next time you plant.
Correct. Which then, if you decide not to grow again, then that's an interesting paradox. How do you get your tax money back?
I don't think they're too worried about that.
No.
Well, I'm enjoying it. It has certainly lived up to the Firecracker name. Definitely more peppery, more intense than the Mi Querida that we've had in the past.
Yep.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, though, and say that I enjoyed the other Mi Querida more.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's definitely a really nice firecracker. Do I enjoy this one? Out of the firecrackers that we've had so far, we've had the Damo, we've had the EP Carrillo Pledge Prequel Firecracker,
the Cigar of the Year Tribute Firecracker.
We've had the United Cigars Firecracker.
Yep.
We've had one other one, haven't we?
I feel like we have. I can't picture it, but I feel like this is our fourth. And I'm going to go.
I do have another firecracker in inventory that's for a future pack, which is the Wise Man Maduro Firecracker.
Okay, we haven't had a Wise Man yet, have we?
We have had a Wise Man.
Actually, I don't think
we have Wise Man.
Have we?
Not in our packs. Did we?
We have Wise Man, but not the firecracker.
Okay. All right. I'll have to go back and look through the paperwork. I'm going to say that of the firecrackers so far, the Perdomo takes the cake. And
I'm really enjoying this. I'm trying to work out whether this one's my number 2, or I really did like the EP Carrillo firecracker as well.
Yeah, that's my number 1.
Okay.
We have Perdomos aged so well for a long period of time. So they have aged really well.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't split them too much, but I think between EP Carrillo, it was just a more denser smoke. But with me, whatever, how you pronounce the cigar, I think there are other Vitolas we have had. I think that was probably one of the most delicious cigar. So the comparison is very hard. You know, that Vitola was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, that Mi Querida was.
Yeah. The reason I love it because I did it once at someone's wedding. I ducked out in a car park and I would always remember that cigar. It was exceptional.
I remember that show. You snuck out of a wedding to join us for the show.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
And look at you, still with an unbroken record, coming to us from the US at all hours of the morning, coming to us from the UK at a more civilized hour of the morning, coming to us from the Middle East.
Yeah.
He's come from us from Pakistan as well.
Yes.
I tell you what. I want this one. So the security guard for the hotel, I borrowed his computer. I just talked him into it. He thinks I'm some kind of celebrity who does something online vlogging. So his cameras are popping. Yeah.
You're well renowned amongst the cigar community of
You're one
Australia.
of the cigar professors. What do you mean some kind of celebrity? You're a cigar professor, damn it.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. For the moment.
And Stu's right. We did have 2 of the Perdomo firecrackers. Damo aged a bunch for us.
Yeah. Beautiful stick.
I was doing a little quick dig around in my own personal inventory because we had a customer order some Perdomo firecrackers from us, and our price lists show that there was some still available. and I don't get around to doing inventory too often. Obviously, when we sell things, unless the inventory's been updated, it's not reflective of what's actually there. And I actually had to dig into my personal stash and make up that order. But that's all right because I've still got about 5.5 boxes of Perdomo firecrackers in my personal inventory.
What were they? They were 20 per box, weren't they?
Yes.
You know they're going to start aging out. You're going to have to start smoking them every week.
That's something else. That's something else.
Well, I'm right down the business end. This is still lovely. Reasonably intense, but not overwhelming. The pepper is definitely there, but it's not too strong. I'm still enjoying it right down at the very, very business end.
Yes, the pepper's not as predominant for me, but that's possibly because my wife cooked a beautiful, very spicy curry for dinner tonight, and
Nice.
It was hot enough to clear the sinuses out and break a sweat. So my palate is not quite where it should be for a cigar smoking session.
Very good. Mr. Stu says, spike it. I would love to, but my perfect drawer is in the same place as all of my cutters. Yeah, no idea.
No idea.
I'm actually still surprised that the retro is still very, very smooth.
Very smooth.
Now.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
It is really amazing. I mean, this cigar, I've been sitting on this cigar in inventory for well over 6 months, probably 8-9 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I reckon this is one that, give it another year of age on it.
Yeah.
And it would just be delightful.
Yeah,
I mean, it is delightful now, but even more so.
I think for me, judging this cigar, I think I won't say I qualify it properly because I've been through 6 countries already, right? And I've been out for almost 5-6 weeks. And that's a long time for a cigar to be, in travel. So I'm probably not doing justification. So it probably is better than others. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dan, just a word of advice: don't spike it with a galvanized nail. That'll
little bit of zinc fumes won't kill anyone.
Yeah,
immediately.
That'll taste funky. Yeah. Yummy.
Or a nail gun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, isn't that what you do, Omar, when you need to sleep? Because obviously you got to smoke while you're sleeping, as otherwise you get withdrawals. You just use a staple gun, don't you, just to hold it onto the lips, and that just keeps it there while you're asleep.
Have you heard of something called second nature? When you drive, you get used to braking. It no longer an issue. It just stays there.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Yeah.
You don't need an effort no more.
No, fair enough. Sorry, I'm sorry I called into question your expertise.
Sorry. That's okay.
Oh, dear. Well, we've got one more cigar in this pack.
We do.
Which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
That also means that next month I need to work out what we're going to have in the next pack.
Well, we're going to need some good teasers next month. We're going to need a bit of information.
Yeah.
Yes. Decisions. What to break out next? I have had some cigars sitting there that I felt needed some age to them, and I think maybe I need to check that they've suitably aged to break out for the next pack in the next month. So
Bit of quality control work ahead for you there, Mr. Damo.
yes, it's just terrible. Like tomorrow I'm going in for chemo again. I'll be in hospital for 6 hours, but unfortunately 6 hours, it's not permissible to be QA testing my cigars in those 6 hours. So
See, this is what I mean. Too many rules in this country. You can't even smoke cigars in the hospital.
there's even a lovely little outdoor courtyard off the cancer treatment area that, they could just wheel me out there and I could be out in the beautiful fernery and outdoor airs and
It would be a wonderful, wonderful irony if we could see such a cultural change in this country that they start having cigar lounges in their cancer wards. That would just be a wonderful irony.
Yeah.
Well, I still think that I'm possibly the only patient in Australia that's doctor has prescribed cigar smoking to. So.
We got to
just
we got to
one
make
at the
that
hospital.
Yeah. Very good. So I believe you were saying to me a little while ago, Damo, that you're pretty well stocked up, or the cigar professor is pretty well stocked up now for a good couple of packs. Is that why the Labor Party have been bragging about having a budget surplus? Was that us?
Probably, more than likely.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. Yeah.
Yeah. Thought so. Well, that's not bad. I've put mine down, but I got a good 50 minutes out of mine. You guys are getting close to the hour.
I'm almost done too.
Yeah. Use it, Eric.
You've done well.
It's still a gorgeous smoke. There's normally you get to the end, it starts getting a bit harsh and bitter, but this is still gorgeous.
It's almost as beautiful almost as beautiful as Damo. Not quite.
Not quite as beautiful as your beard, though.
Thank you, sir. Kind sir.
Well, we had to abandon our plans for an in-person herf that was planned for autumn last year. What about we have a chat off camera and see if we can find a way to make one happen in autumn this year, early autumn, probably April is going to be the best time of year for it.
Yeah, done.
The only thing might be on, so April probably will work for me. The only thing I've got on my agenda in the next month and a half is I have to move warehouse.
Ooh.
So we haven't got anywhere to move to yet, but we basically are not utilising the warehouse to the degree that we used to be using it, and it's a lot of rent money paid on empty space. So we need to downsize. But my other problem is it looks like I'll have to move warehouse solo. So that's going to be interesting fun.
Yeah, that's not good. I think Omar has already volunteered though to help you clear out a bunch of the cigar stock so you don't have to move it.
Yeah.
Well, yes. He did it. He did offer that.
I'm in.
Yeah, he did. He just offered to, just to back the ute up and just start loading it in with a forklift.
Yeah. Just don't expect him to stick around to help you move all the other stuff.
Nah.
I should bury it at the back of all the other stuff, shouldn't I? So then he's got to move all the other. Yeah,
that's right.
There we go.
Or just have already removed the cigars and just keep telling him, no, it's in the back. It's in the back. It's behind all that stuff. We've got to move all that first. When's your next flight, Omar?
So I fly to Abu Dhabi in about 4.5 hours.
Oh gosh. You gonna go find somewhere to have a nap?
Nah, man, the lounge. The airport lounge, you gotta be safe.
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi has apparently the best cigar lounge as well, so I'm gonna check that out too.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Pixar, it didn't happen.
I have my perfect draw here.
Oh.
I definitely have to.
You gonna spike it?
I am.
That's fair. I would have. Let me see if mine's got any life left in it. Oh yeah. Sat there for a while, but it's come roaring back to life for me.
Yeah.
Incredible. And that's
boys,
one of the things I must admit that I really do appreciate with Burton Tobacco cigars is that the quality of the burn that you get out of them generally is really, really good. He does like his darker cigars. He's not a big one for the lighter wrappers, and you generally do find that those darker, oilier cigars tend to stick along on their own very, very well.
Very well, very well. Boys, I'm almost done, and I think the battery's dying too. I got about 4.5 or so. 4.5 to pack up. I'm gonna pop some more Panadols and melatonin so I can just sleep in the flight as well.
Yeah. Well, you look after yourself, Matt. It's deeply impressive the way you have just literally showed up for every single show. Come hell or high water, food poisoning, travel, it doesn't matter. You're still here. Yeah. If I had a hat, I would take it off as well. Very impressive, mate. But you go look after yourself.
That's amazing.
And love for Cigar Professor. It's an incredible place to be. Thank you, gents. I'm over and out.
You have a good night.
Thank you.
Wow. There you
finally,
go.
we can talk shit about him.
I did not expect that.
No.
I spoke to him about an hour or two before the show, and he could barely talk.
Oh, you could still barely talk then.
Well, no, that was really good compared to what he was about an hour or two ago. He was horrendous.
I've had a couple of decent bouts of food poisoning, and I can't imagine smoking cigars, let alone smoking cigars on camera and trying to look like a half decent alive human being while I'm doing it. That's just amazing.
Well, he said he was puking for 24 hours nonstop almost.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, very impressive. Very impressive. Just don't tell him I said that.
Wow, the smoke production on this thing is just phenomenal.
It's an absolutely gorgeous cigar, but I reckon you're right. You give these another year, and they would be contenders for being up in your top 10 cigars of all time with another year on them, I reckon.
Yep.
But right now, I'm going to put the other Mi Querida ahead.
Yep. And look, as I said, it's a slightly different blend.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But
it does exactly what it should do as a firecracker. It is exactly what you want. It's got that punch. It's got that pepper.
Yeah.
That extra kick, the boldness in the flavor. It's got everything you want in a firecracker.
Yeah. And look, we see the same thing with the Oliva Serie V Milanio, is that the Lancero and the number 4s, or the Petite Corona size, is the two magic spots for that particular cigar.
Yep. Yeah, that in the Petite Corona Oliva V Milanio number 4 is without question a contender. I'm not going to say categorically, but it is without question a contender for my favorite cigar of all time. Yeah. It is superb, and the Lancero is also up there. And then I've had, that's probably the one cigar that I have had every single Vitola of, and those two really do stand out above the others.
Yep. I've actually had some Robustos in that recently, and they've been quite good as well. Not as good as those two, but definitely better than the Churchill size.
Well, I think isn't that the one where the Lancero is what I can't think of his name, but the blender who blends those, he smokes the Lanceros in those.
Correct. And also the Lancero is the one that is probably the rarest size to get hold of. All the others are stocked readily, but the Lancero doesn't come into stock very often. Yeah.
No, beautiful. And it is amazing just what the change in Vitola will do, small adjustments to the blend. This is what I find so fascinating about cigars is you've got people that can take an organic product that is never quite exactly the same from year to year. But, any natural product, there is natural variation. When was the rainfall? How much rain fell? What were the conditions like? What was the temperature? How much sunshine? It's always changing, and yet they can just churn out these phenomenal products.
I wonder if anyone's growing like hydroponic tobacco in a greenhouse, whether they can control that environment consistently.
I wonder if you'd be able to do that commercially, though, because most of the world's tobacco is open field, which is obviously going to be a lot cheaper. You could do it, but could you actually make it pay? I'm not so sure you could. I mean, you've got places like Ecuador where they've just got some of the fewest days of direct sunshine in the world. That's what makes Ecuadorian Connecticut shade wrapper so good. When you've got sort of different parts of the world that lend themselves to these different types of tobacco and give it their unique kind of characteristics. It's an interesting question, but I just can't imagine you could make it pay.
It'd be an interesting experiment nonetheless.
Look, again, you want to buy a 6-acre greenhouse and pay the tax on the tobacco plants up front, then be my guest. Can you imagine the conniptions that the tax office would have if you paid your tax for 100%, and then because you were growing them hydroponically indoors in perfect conditions, you got like 150% yield.
Don't forget, in a greenhouse, one of the key things that they do in greenhouses is increase the carbon dioxide levels to promote growth.
Absolutely, would definitely benefit the environment that way. Dan does know a thing or two about growing plants hydroponically. I won't explain why, but you could grow it hydroponic, but you'd lose the natural flavors. Is Dan's objection? Yeah, maybe true. Maybe true. Don't harsh my mellow, man.
I still think it's worth the experiment one day.
Yeah, Dan, don't crush my dreams. Let Damo spend the money, and we'll find out.
Well, I don't think I can get too much more out of this. Look at that.
No, you've done well. You've done well. When I got down to there, just on there we go. There goes the ash, just on fingers. But at that point, it was just too hot.
Yeah, it's getting a bit hot on the lips, so I think I'm going to let that die out with dignity now.
Well, props to you. Another wonderful stick, another wonderful addition to the Cigar Professor repertoire, and thank you for being the driving force behind all of that. We've got a good stock at the moment, guys. So if you're in a position where you want to stock up, make sure you reach out through the Facebook page and let us know. We'd love to help you out. And Damo, Omar, and I'll have a chat off camera about potentially in a couple of months' time doing another in-person herf. It's been years, literally, since we've done one, and it'd be good to get the gang back together and have a bit of a low-key night, enjoying cigars and some good company.
Absolutely.
Well, Damo, you have a good night. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for all your many comments and the great conversation. We will see you next month, and we'll find out then what is in pack 18.
See you then.
Cheers.